Hi there. Welcome to the fifth in a series of videos about how to use Managebac effectively in your MYP class. This video is dedicated to understanding how to add students to your classes in Managebac. In the previous video, we made two classes, sophomore physics classes for first and second period. We made one unit, the waves unit, and that last video we made two tasks, a MYP assessment and a chapter test. Now all that we need to do to get Managebac up and running is add a couple students to my classes. Now, so far we really haven't had to matter, which class we're in. Whether we're in one or two, we can add tasks and units the same way, but when adding students, I've got to make sure I know which class I'm in, so I'll go ahead and select my first period class. Now, the first student I'm going to add is my daughter, Sally McFake. So if I click students, I'll see a list of students to add. It's going to default to the grade my class is in. For example, it's going to default to the sophomore class. Now, I can add students from any year, but I'll go ahead and add Sally. She, of course, is a sophomore. I'll click Students. And I'm going to add Student. Now, McFake, of course, is the last name from J to N. I'll do a quick search for McFake, and you'll see Sally McFake show up right here. I'm going to add her to my first period class. My son, they're twins. My son, John, is in my second period class, so I'm not going to add him right now. I'll click Add Selected Student. And now Sally McFake is in my class. She's the only one. Very lonely, but, well, that's okay. I'll do the same thing to add my son, John. Of course, he's in second period, so I've got to select my second period class, and I'll add students like normal, and I'll go to the J through N's, and I'll search for John McFake, and there he is. And I'll add that student to my second period class, and of course, he is the only student in the second period class as well. So both these students are now in my classes, and I can now teach them. Now, if you have a student that's not in your class, and is not in Managebac, go ahead and try some other grades. They might not be in the right grade. Hopefully they are. If they are just not there, email your nearest Managebac administrator. You'd probably know who that might be. Ask around if you don't know who it is. Be sure to include the student's name and their email address, and we can go ahead and get that going. What'll happen is we'll create the user, and then it's going to send an email to that student. The student's got to be able to check their email and get the information. They'll set their password on that page. Now, let's say that John McFake, my lovely son, forgot his password. I know, that's just crazy talk. Well, just like before, unfortunately, that's not something you can change on your own. Email his name to a Managebac administrator, and that Managebac administrator can go in and send an email to John to make sure they'll have him reset the password. Now, we don't have access to the student's passwords, so we can't provide a list of all the passwords to you in case your students forget. So, they've got to be able to have an email address that they know and that they check decently frequently. Hopefully they know their email password. Now, if you have a student in your MYP class that's in 11th or 12th grade, well, they are not MYP students, but you might want to add them to Managebac because that'll allow them to see all the resources you have. It'll allow them to turn in the same work that all the other students are turning it in. What you need to do is just email an administrator, and they'll add that student as a 10th grade student. Unfortunately, you're not able to add 11th and 12th grade students, even if they're already in Managebac. It is a bad part of it, but we'll make it work. So adding students to Managebac is fairly straightforward, and hopefully you won't have any problems.